our next recipient is also a credit to our business, not just because he's Jimmy Raschke from Nebraska. He's the Baron, and that's all you really need to know. Before we meet the Baron's presenter, please look at his video on that screen.
My man. How many of you guys going to look at me first?
Following a successful amateur wrestling career where he won the Nebraska State Heavyweight Championship as a senior, an injury that kept him off the 1964 Olympic team, and a stint in the United States Army, it seemed James Raschke's career would be in the teaching profession, but he aspired to be a wrestler. After a meeting with Baron Von Raschke, his professional wrestling career began in 1966 in the American Wrestling Association under Gagne's tutelage, and thanks to a suggestion from Mad Dog Vachon, who said he looked German, he became Baron Von Raschke. With his finishing move, the Brain Claw, he would soon become one of the most feared wrestlers in the entire wrestling world. In the 1970s and 80s, the Baron held numerous singles and tag team titles throughout the NWA and AWA. While wrestling in the WWF, his claw hold was censored by a red X because of the blood it would draw. Raschke was involved in many epic matches, including those with Bruno Sammartino, where he nearly defeated the longtime champion. He was the first NWA television champion, held the AWA World Tag Team Championship with a Crusher as his partner, was part of the NWA Six-Man Championship along with Ivan and Nikita Koloff, and teamed with Hector Guerrero to defeat the Barbarian and Pez Whatley at Starrcade. In 1988, he returned to the AWA, followed by a championship run in PWA, winning the tag team title on 2 occasions. The Baron took part in WCW's inaugural Slamboree, a Legends reunion where he teamed with Ivan Koloff. Raschke retired in 1995, but that was not the end of the Baron. In 2007, he acted in a Minnesota theater play based on his life and persona, a quiet, mild-mannered man who created an in-ring gimmick that drew so much heat and was so real that he and tag team partner Mad Dog Vachon found themselves fighting their way out of the ring on a nightly basis. And with a fame, there is always a downside. The Baron is often mistaken for George Clooney. And because Raschke feels he is better looking, frankly, he's tired of it. Baron Von Raschke is a member of the George Tragos Lou Thez Hall of Fame, a 2013 inductee into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and is a previous men's wrestling honoree at the Cauliflower Alley Club. Tonight, he joins past Iron Mike honorees Tully Blanchard, Trish Stratus, Larry Hennig, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Jerry Taylor, and Ivan Koloff. And just in case you need a little more inspiration,
that is all you need to know.
To present the Baron, please welcome Joyce Alston. She is a longtime photographer of both the AWA and the CAC, and a longtime friend of the Raschke family. So Joyce, would you please come up and present the award?
Thank you, Jim. I am so pleased to have been asked to introduce the 2018 Iron Mike Award winner. Part of the criteria for this award is that the recipient be instantly recognizable to people both inside and outside the wrestling world. I think it's safe to say that that definitely applies to Baron Von Raschke. One of the comments I hear from fans all the time is that the Baron still looks the same as when he wrestled, even now, some 20 years after he is retired from the ring. Anyone who sees his face on a magazine cover or on TV instantly knows who he is. That is, of course, with the possible exception of those females who mistake him for George Clooney. If you look at the wrestlers that the Baron has faced or teamed with during his 3-decade career, it reads like a who's who of the legends of wrestling. He's headlined in nearly every major arena around the world. He began as an extremely talented amateur wrestler, and he later easily translated those wrestling skills into the pro world. And with the interview skills of the Baron, he exploded into the world of popularity, or unpopularity, I should say. Over the years, depending on who he has wrestled or who he has teamed with, he's been either one of the most hated wrestlers or one of the most loved. Now that he's retired from the ring, I think it's safe to say he is definitely one of the most loved. And one of the reasons for that is that the Baron has achieved success in many other areas of his life beyond wrestling. And that's the other criteria for the Iron Mike Award. He was a teacher and a memorable mentor to many junior high students in Minnesota. He and his wife were successful small business owners at a charming Minnesota resort area gift shop where people, myself included, traveled hundreds of miles just to see their shop and buy their trinkets. In 2007, he starred, as you saw, in a highly successful play put on by the Minnesota Historical Society about his amazing and unusual life called The Baron. The play ran for several weeks at the time, with nearly every night sold out, and it's currently in the process of being turned into a movie starring none other than the Baron, thanks to the technical efforts of his son and other producer friends. But perhaps the most important measure of Baron's success is the type of man that he is. The type of man who you can always count on to show up and give 100% anytime he's booked. The type of man who has seemingly endless patience for posing for pictures and signing autographs for satisfied fans. The type of man who's made countless friendships across the country because of his personality, his integrity, and his dry sense of humor. Most importantly, the type of man who has been happily married to his wonderful wife, Bonnie, for over 51 years. Helping to raise 2 equally nice and successful kids, and kid-sitting whenever he can for his 3 awesome grandchildren. That's the type of man the Baron is, and that's the type of man that the Iron Mike Award represents. And now, because that isn't all you need to know, please give a hearty CAC welcome to the 2018 Iron Mike Award winner, the legend, the man, and good friend to all of us, Baron Von Raschke.
What's she talking about?
Thank you, Joyce. That was a great introduction. I am very honored to be selected for this award, and part of the reason that Joyce was selected to present me is because my lovely wife of 51 years, 5 happy years. If she were up here, she'd tell you that was when I was on the road the most. Anyway, I'd like to introduce my wife, Bonnie. This is Paul. This is called the Iron Mike Award, and Mike Mazurki was a very skilled wrestler, skilled actor, a very benevolent man, and I'm very pleased and honored to be awarded this that was named after him, who was like iron in the ring and when he was acting. However, at my age, and after being in the ring for many years, I feel more like sedentary rock. I think I settled, but you know, out of rock, they find ore. And in some ore, it's iron. And if you process it, it becomes other things. So I just want to relate to you that when I was in the Army, I had an injury, so I wrote to promoter Joe Dusick, having had an amateur wrestling career for a while, and I wrote to Joe Dusick, the promoter in Omaha, and he sent me back and I said, I wrote all my credentials. It's a long list. And I'm sure he showed it to all the boys in the dressing room. They went, ha ha ha, that's great. You know, just for a good laugh. But anyway, he sent me a nice letter. He said, I'll introduce you to Baron Von Raschke, because he didn't have any facilities to train me. So when I got out of the Army, I went to the TV station. I called Joe. I went to the TV station. He introduced me to Baron Von Raschke. Baron Raschke took some rough, sedentary rock, maybe a little iron ore in it, maybe not. He took it and he formed a mold. And then another guy named Maurice from Nigeria via French Canada. He saw me, little Jimmy Raschke from Nebraska, get out in front of the mic on the TV station after I'd set up the ring. They'd have me do interviews, practice interviews, and Marty O'Neill, the little announcer, he was only about this tall, and all the wrestlers in the territory at the time were at least as tall as I was. And Marty would say, so and so, and he'd hold the mic up so they could talk into the mic. So they'd have me come out, and I'd go out there, little Jimmy Raschke from Nebraska, and he would say, good luck, Jim, you're training for professional wrestling. How is that? And then he'd go, and I'd go, well, I went out and I ran and I did this and I lifted that and I did that. Terrible, terrible, terrible. So anyway, this guy I'd never met, came into the territory, and he noticed me, and he'd been a wrestling champion for Canada. He was an Olympic participant, and he was the Commonwealth Games champion. And he liked me because I had an amateur background, and I didn't even know him, but he said, "You make a good German." He said that to me 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and finally I had enough courage to say, he said, "You make a good German." And finally, after 4 or 5 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, I don't know, I got the courage to say, "Well, I am German." And he said, and he went to the ring, beat up somebody, and came back. Didn't talk to me anymore. Anyway, after a couple of weeks, I met him out in the ring when I was setting up the ring, refereeing, and he said, we got to be friends. And he said, I'd like you to come up to Montreal, Canada, and be my partner. Anyway, by then I met my wife Bonnie, and we fell in love, we got married, and in the spring, we headed up to Canada. And I didn't know that much about Canada, but when we got there, I had my first match as Baron Von, well, he wanted to call me Pumpkin. I said, no, I don't think so, dog. Anyway, he called me, we called me Baron Von Raschke, and from that point on, I spoke in a German accent, and I was interviewed by a French-speaking Canadian announcer, and I was speaking to mostly a French-Canadian audience, whose first language was French, although most of them spoke very, very good English. I got on there and suddenly I went from Lindsay Raschke, from Nebraska, to Baron Von Raschke, who could interview, who could talk on the microphone, who could tell a story. Although the one I've been telling right now hasn't been floating so well. It'll get better. I promise you that. I promise you that. And this guy, Baron Von Raschke, will leave Winnipeg, Canada as a future star in the wrestling business, because what somebody takes as sedentary rock, takes as iron ore, they put in the fire, and that's exactly what Mad Dog did with Baron Von Raschke. He put me in the fire night after night. There were riots. Mad Dog's heat, my heat, Mad Dog this tall, me this tall. A combination that clicked. We got over sensational, and like JR said, there were riots, not only getting out of the ring, but getting to the ring. And from that time on, my career soared, and I went from place to place as Baron Von Raschke, except in St. Louis, where I was just plain old Von Raschke. Anyway, that's beside the point. So here I am. I'm very happy, very proud, very honored to have been considered for this award, let alone to receive it. I thank the committee, all the people that voted for me, and I thank all the fans. One of the reasons Joyce, we picked Joyce to introduce me is because I owe my career, as we all know in the business, to our fans. And she's the epitome of a great fan, and she represents all of you people that are fans. She's been just wonderful, and I think you all should give yourselves a hand, because without the fans, you have no business. And now, I don't want to take up much more of your time. So I won't. And that is all you need to know.